Hey all, welcome back to our fourth episode in our foray into YouTube and the podcast world. Welcome to Caffeine Fueled Ventures. Got it right this week. There we go, Rory. I know you were listening intently there. Welcome. And so this week we've got kind of an interesting topic. A topic that's actually close to the two of our hearts, in that, it's obviously something we kind of had to do ourselves. So the topic for this week is running a side hustle alongside a full-time job. So, we're going to go into different areas of, why you would do that, the types of hustles you could do, and, keys to doing that, from some of the experience we've had over the last, 4 years at this point, I think. Rory's going to kick us straight off. We still haven't quite mastered this handover ceremony thing, so let's see how that goes. But yeah, over you go, Rory.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I think this kind of just saying each other's name kind of works for now, doesn't it? Cool. Okay, so to kind of kick off, really, we wanted to talk around why you might choose to do a side hustle whilst being in a full-time job. And, as Jake mentioned, this is something that's really close to our hearts. We both actually work for the same employer full-time. I don't know if I can say that. Maybe I'll bleep that out. We'll see. I can't say what employer it is anyway, but, we both work for a large, very large corporation. We both love our jobs. Well, at least I can say I do. I don't know, Jake, do you love yours?
I do indeed.
But we have built these businesses at this point on the side, and I think it's a really important topic to kind of talk about. Like, why would you actually want to commit to doing a side hustle on the side? And side hustle, I'm not sure I'm sold on the term. I think just additional income streams or additional jobs, I think. But we'll go with side hustle. So firstly, for a lot of people, it starts off as doing something fun on the side. And actually, I think that's probably quite apt for Jake and I. Realistically, a lot of people kind of start off by doing something that they're either good at already or they have a kind of passing interest in. For example, if you're into candle making, you kind of want to monetize that, that's something fun that you can do on the side. For Jake and I, it kind of started off with coffee. We loved coffee. We spent a lot of our time drinking it, and spending a lot of money on it. So it kind of felt like a natural progression to get into that kind of thing. For other people, it might be that their passion isn't what their full-time job is. Some people aren't necessarily fortunate enough to have found something that they really are truly passionate about, or wake up in the morning excited to get going on. So if your passion isn't your full-time job, for some people, kind of working on the side to build up a business is a really good way to earn extra income. So that's something else as well. Are you just looking to kind of boost your income? But for some people, if your full-time job is something that you're not passionate about, potentially you might be building up businesses on the side or an extra revenue stream to be able to one day, quit your full-time job. So that is on a lot of people's agenda as well. The other thing as well is about minimizing risk. I think this one for me is, potentially an important one as well. I'd like to think that I'm in an industry that's a, fairly safe industry to be in. But at the same time, I think it's really important to be able to, have that feeling in your head that your risk is mitigated. And that's something that you can do by, having your, job on the side as well. So I think those are kind of some really important kind of reasons why you might want to consider having a side hustle. I think really the next part is to talk about what types of side hustles there are. So I guess over to you, Jake.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so 100% right. So that risk one, I think, is such an important one. Like you mentioned, not only the risk of having two income streams potentially, but also if there is something you're really passionate about, doing it as a side hustle is a great way to minimize the risk of just quitting your job and going and starting a business overnight, right? So yeah, the risk ones are, I think, a really important one. So definitely echo that. When we look at side hustles, and I'm kind of with Rory, I can't say I'm a lover of the term. I think in some ways it's apt, because typically, yes, it requires some sort of extra work or whatever. So, that's where the hustle, I suppose, is coming from. You could call it extra job, you could call it a passion project. We don't really care what you call it. But ultimately, when we start looking at those types of things, passion projects or whatever, we typically find most of those are online of sorts, right? So what we mean by this is, it's either a website or Etsy or Amazon or those types of things, Facebook Marketplace even, not exclusive to any of the huge platforms, but ultimately we find that most of these side hustles happen online, and the key reasons being are, if you're doing it in your spare time, with most people working 9 to 5s, that spare time you have is of an evening or first thing in the morning, right? And at the weekends. Now, it's rare that, a side hustle is going to be well facilitated in, those types of hours. And of course, what we will probably should echo with our discussion of side hustle, it's not just second job. Second job, yes, you could go cleaning of an evening, right? That's not out of the realms of possibility. But that's just a second job. There's nothing wrong with that. But the side hustles we're talking about are where you have ownership or control over the destiny of the project and or the business itself, right? So, typically you aren't going to be able to get to a physical location post hours of sort of 5 o'clock. And run a successful business. Now, there might be some exceptions. If you want to be a nightclub owner on the side, now there is a chance that does work for you. But there aren't going to be too many. The weekend side of things, yes, you could go to the local market and sell your candles or your fancy decorated bottles or what your paint, your artwork. That's all definitely possible. But from what we've seen, most of them are online. And what's good about that is when you're looking at online and, trying to address a need in a market, or even, take something that you already do or have expertise in and put it out into the world and, sell it. And ultimately, hopefully, you make a profit, because you don't necessarily want to lose money doing something like this. The beauty of that situation is we have seen and found that typically you can do information-based businesses, you can do service-based businesses, and you can do product-based businesses, right? So the beauty is all our options are on the table. You'll have to excuse me 1 second. My cat is losing his mind down by my feet and attacking me, so bear with me. Right, stop that. Dexter, classic. That's going to make the outtakes, no doubt, I'm sure. So ultimately, what you can do is you can take some expertise you've got that could potentially come from your full-time job. We see a lot of people take their expertise in finance and put out either documents people can download, or they put out informative videos. All of this is valid content and options for you to potentially be able to sell. You can do services. We've seen many people that will offer their services because they have an expertise in, say, planning trips to Disney or planning trips across Europe. It doesn't really matter if you have an expertise, or you can help someone do something that they ultimately don't overly enjoy or aren't very good at. You are going to fulfill a need, and therefore that's a valid idea. Products, that one I think speaks for itself. That's primarily where we focused. Products, because ultimately we want to go and get the best products and make sure we sell those. As I say, ultimately, if you can provide value, and that's going to be key. But the key thing, as Rory said, you have to enjoy it. And all we would probably echo there is absolutely anything can be a side hustle. It doesn't honestly matter. You know, if you're passionate about it and there is an opportunity out there, we suggest you go get it. So those are some of the different, you know, side hustles we've seen probably over the last 3 or 4 years. You know, when you know, exploring different areas. So yeah, that's kind of high level, the different types. Rory's going to kind of throw us through some of the keys to doing those side hustles whilst, you know, doing a full-time job. So go on, Rory, take us away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those are all brilliant points, mate. And I think, you know, I can only really echo. We say that quite a lot, don't we? Echo. Is that a corporate terminology we brought from our other job?
That is definitely a corporate terminology we brought across.
Well, we'll just sit here and echo each other for an hour and see if our viewers
I must echo that. I must echo.
But you know, it's a really good point. Try and do something that you love to start. It can get really demotivating after some time, especially if you're doing something where, you know, you're trying to sell a product and it might take some time to get there. You definitely want to be doing something that you really truly feel passionate about. So that kind of brings me to the purpose, really. So you need to think about your sort of motivation behind the reason why you know, you want to start the side hustle, and really think about, you know, is it to make money, or is it more of a hobby for yourself? So are you thinking about, right, I need to make an extra 100, 200, 300 pounds a month to pay for a car, for example? You know, you want a nicer car, so you want some more money towards that. Or are you just kind of interested in, you know, you've got a hobby, it's a product that's probably pretty monetizable, and actually you just want that to become a self-fulfilling prophecy? You know, you're really interested, keep going back to candles, right? You're really interested in making candles, but, you know, that's a costly, semi-costly hobby. So, you know, if you can sell that, you can then continue to, you know, make them. So it could be that. So really start to think about that first, because that's going to, you know, kind of be key to, you know, making your strategy and moving it forwards. You know, said this a couple of times now, but you really do need to make it something you love doing, regardless of whether it's, you know, you're doing something that's more of a hobby, or if it's that you're, you know, just there clearly to make some additional money. Next thing is to really set yourself a clear schedule. So you really need to think about all of the different things that kind of in your life can't move, and that you need to fit in around those things, whether it be your job, whether it be your family commitments, whether it be just your extracurricular commitments. I don't know, you go running or whatever with a set group of people and you need to fit it around that. Think about that, map that out, because you'll actually start to realize that your day is a bit shorter than you probably thought it was. And creating that clear schedule will allow you to really work out where you're going to fit different tasks in. So you've worked out that you've got an extra hour, let's just say it's an hour a day that you can sort of fit in here and there. Well, an hour a day is not a lot. So, you know, knowing that, you can make sure you're just getting to the real important parts of the business and not spending too much time on other things. Be prepared to grind and hustle. Certainly for us, it took quite some time before we started making sales. Or even if I don't know how long it actually took us to make our first sale. Actually, I think it was, if I remember rightly, Jake, it was before we actually launched. Somebody managed to, I might tell the story incorrectly now, it was a while back, but when we went to launch our first product, we put the site up and we hadn't actually set it. Well, we thought we hadn't set it live yet. I was driving to the shops and all of a sudden we got the little ka-ching of the app. 2 seconds later, I got Jake calling me and we're losing our mind because we've actually sold the product before we even went live. But that was a fluke, by the way. But you know, the point is,
like, there's no denying that was a fluke as well. I don't even know.
It was mad. And, you know, mad respect to the guy that purchased from us. No, we didn't even know who it was. We looked at it thinking, oh, maybe it was, you know, family or friend that we'd spoken to about our product and had managed to find it. No, completely unrelated. It was amazing, really. But, you know, regardless of how quickly you make your first sale or, you know, you take on your first client, whatever it might be, you will find that in order to actually start making any money that becomes viable, it is going to take some time, and you've got to be prepared to try lots of different avenues, etc. So just be prepped for that mentally. the thing that for Jake and I is really, really important is making sure that our commitment to our full-time jobs and our corporate jobs, it's that our side jobs don't interfere with that. And by interfere, it could be, well, firstly, is that it's not done during working hours. You know, your commitment to that job is to be, it normally is to be, you know, there between whatever it might be for you, 8 in the morning and 5 o'clock, or whatever it might be. So you need to make sure that that still is your commitment, especially if you're looking to stay at that company. But we don't just mean that, but there's also the kind of idea of, is there a conflict of interest there? There are certain business ventures that Jake and I just would not touch because that comes too close to, you know, what would be our corporate jobs, and we wouldn't go there. So, you know, you need to make sure, for example, if you work for, you know, a chocolate company, that you're not going to go out and bring out your own chocolate if you intend to stay there, because you're going to become a direct competitor, and there would definitely be a conflict of interest there. The other thing as well is keeping it away from your full-time job is not using, you know, the resources that your company gives you. So, for example, don't use your work computer. You know, if you've got a laptop for your work, which a lot of us do nowadays, don't be using that to do your, you know, your side business. Even if they're not monitoring it, yeah, I just don't think it really sits well. That asset was purchased for your job, and you shouldn't be using, you know, that for doing your side job. And then other kind of resources that you might have access to. Say you work for a graphic design company, you know, unless they give you permission to, don't be using like their software, for example. Make sure you know you're using your own and you purchase your own license. Last thing that I'll mention here, and I you know, I admit I've probably gone on a little bit here, but is avoid shiny toy syndrome. It's so easy to get trapped into sort of purchasing the next service, or you know, getting, you know, a new I don't know, theme for your website, and really focusing in on little bits that don't necessarily move the needle. Yeah, if you're not making any sales, realistically, a premium theme, all right, it might be the thing that might help you get some sales, but maybe that's not the thing to focus on. Maybe just getting in front of some people is the thing to focus on. So really start to think about that. Like, there's always going to be somebody marketing the next thing to you, the thing that you should purchase for your business, but really think about it for a second and think, actually, maybe just spending some time on this might be better than, you know, going and spending some money here. So yeah, I hope I've done that bit justice. Over to yourself, Jake, for a few more of those, I think.
Yeah, mate, you smashed it, and I'll probably give you the intro here. I have shiny toy syndrome. I cannot deny, right? I get carried away with all sorts of new shiny toys when it comes to our work, and you know I do. So there you go. There's the intro if we need it. If we're stuck, that's the intro. So yeah, 100%. And I'm not going to echo, because we're done with the word echo at this point. But the one thing I will add on the, you know, conflict of interest piece is make sure you do your own verifications on what your contract says and will allow. You know, there are a number of contracts that, especially in the US, that will read any work you know, complete during a certain period would be considered the work product of the business you are primarily employed by. So make sure you check your contract and work out what you can and can't, you know, start a business in. For example, you know, if you work at Google and you're making candles, there possibly isn't a huge conflict of interest, but we suggest you check that yourself. All right, so some other stuff we'd strongly recommend, you know, keeping an eye on. So 100%, let me be clear on this. Do not expect to be an overnight success. There is a classic, absolute classic misconception here. And yes, okay, there are a few exceptions, you know, where people do strike it rich. They throw some money into Dogecoin, for example, and next thing you know, Elon's tweeting the crap out of it and like you've made a ton of money. Yes, you fluked it and you took a gamble, right? That's no different to throwing 20 grand on red at the roulette table, right? So if you're going to make a proper sustainable business without, you know, with some exceptions, it is not going to happen overnight. You know, I can think of a couple of key examples of, you know, well-known businesses that, you know, you could easily see as an overnight success. but they've been working at it for years. One of the ones that jumps out to me, Joe Wick. You know, everybody knows Joe Wicks. You know, the fitness guy, lean in 15, all that jazz. Yes, okay, you could look at him and think, yes, he's an overnight success. You know, he does some exercising and he makes a ton of money, right? Yes, great, he does. But you have to remember, he was, you know, working on, you know, fitness, the fitness industry for many years before he was ever blown up, you know, through Instagram, etc. So nobody realistically, you know, there are some exceptions, as I say, generally is an overnight success. The classic adage is, you know, you work for 5 to 10 years and then people see you as an overnight success. That's classically how it quite often happens. The next thing really, you know, about trying to be successful in your side hustle, Rory said set a clear schedule. I would add set some clear goals, right? So you're going to have limited time to work on this, you know, whether it be 5 through 12 p.m., whatever the time be, you're going to have limited time. So set some clear goals, work out what of those goals is going to be most beneficial to the business and yourself, and drive towards those ones instead of just a really long list. The key thing there, though, is make sure that the goals are realistic. To just assume you're going to be the next Gymshark is probably a little bit wild of a goal. Yeah, maybe it's possible, but I think Gymshark was most recently valued at like $1 billion. So maybe set a more realistic goal, especially, you know, when you're starting out. That's another business, by the way, that was not an overnight success. So, you know, there's plenty of examples. Have a clear mission. You know, that comes back to setting goals, you know, whether that mission be some extra income, as Rory said, you know, fixing a problem that really bothers you, or whatever. Work out how much you want it. So, you know, do you really want the popularity that comes with running a business, you know, through the Instagram, etc. Oh, crikey, I made myself sound really old there. The Instagram, like, you know,
on the line
through social media. There you go. Wow. Or alternatively, are you after, you know, the financial security? Work out what it is you want from it and how much you really want that. And then the last thing I'm going to add really is make sure you're keeping your costs under control, right? So what I mean by this is keep your actual costs, but also any desire or any need to go into debt for business, especially a side hustle. I've got to be honest, we don't overly advise against. We do advise against. Sorry, we are not particularly fans of going into debt for a side hustle. You know, ultimately, you know your financial situation better than we do. All we would say is be careful. You know, don't just assume that, you know, you can go and buy a ton of flats, renovate them overnight and make a ton of money. You know, you'll see a lot of influencers or a lot of stuff like that on TikTok or whatever, talking about how they made 25 grand overnight. Well, yeah, okay, but they've been doing it for 10 years. Or, you know, okay, yes, they borrowed some money from the bank and the bank could have easily repossessed all that money. So we would just suggest you are sensible, but you know your own situation better than we do. So I'm going to shut up, hand it back to Rory, but I've got to be honest, mate, we are absolutely dripping with nuggets of stupid shit we've said today.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. I was about to echo you again, but we need to find another word for that because I don't know what it is that I want to say, but essentially, you know, just going back to that debt point again, I think you know, I can only echo what Jake, I can only repeat what Jake says. Look, I mean, for me, if you're doing a side hustle, you shouldn't be looking at sort of financing it through debt. Maybe you have a really solid plan, but quite often I think if you're financing something through debt, you're taking such a plunge that it shouldn't be your side hustle anyway. There's so much that when you're looking at side hustles, and probably if you found this video, underneath our video is probably another 6 or 7 videos telling you, oh, why don't you, you know, purchase this specific course for, you know, X amount of money, and we're going to teach you how to become, you know, a real estate investor. Some of those actually probably have some, you know, some credence. I don't see it personally. I think when you're thinking about doing a side business, this is going to be my piece of advice. I'm going off piece here a little bit, but like if you're thinking about doing, if you're thinking about doing a side hustle, think about something that you can start that's kind of low key to start out, minimal investment, and something that you can be passionate about, like we said, and just see if you can grow that a little bit. See where your business head is at before you kind of dive off, and start, remortgaging the house. I think that's what Jake and I did. We didn't remortgage the house. We did something that was quite small, minimal investment. And, I'm always worried about kind of saying to somebody, look, it's going to take you years and years, like it's loads of effort and stuff, because that kind of puts people off. Yeah, it's been quite a lot of effort, what we've done. And yeah, it's taken us, well, we're at the 4-year mark now before we're making some, a decent amount of revenue. But I mean, ultimately, we've had a lot of fun doing it. It's an interesting thing. We've learned a lot, and all of that stuff that happened in the past where it wasn't making any money, that wasn't just a loss. Like that was a whole load of expertise that we built up over time. So yeah, don't expect to become an overnight millionaire. Don't expect to, that this is going to kick off straight away. But at the same time, don't let this put you off. Don't go to another video that says you are going to be an overnight success and take that piece of advice. So kind of sit in the middle, and I think you'll be fine. So on that note, anyway, I think this one's probably going to end up being another long one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love it if you could hit the bell notification as well. I know every single YouTube channel tells you to do that, but it would really help us out, and hopefully you'll get some value out of these things. We're really trying to put together some good content for you guys. If you're following us on, all of the other different types of mediums, or whether it be through podcast, etc., there should be a way to follow us on there as well, and we'd really appreciate that. If you do like coffee and you want to support us, please check out, our website. So the link will be in the description, but it's Caffeinate Coffee. You can Google us. We should come to the top as well. So other than that, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Later.